wonder what's hot in the baking world right now? It's not even that complicated. You get store-bought croissants, cut them open, shove in some store-bought cookie dough, and that's it. Hi everyone, I'm Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author, and creator of Bigger Bolder Baking. Welcome to Need to Know, your go-to podcast for everything baking entertainment. From the latest trends,
this is the viral scrambled pancake trend.
What? To the tips and tricks you crave.
We discovered that if you take apple peels, toss them in a little cinnamon and sugar, and bake them for about an hour in the oven, you get a really lovely treat.
Plus exclusive interviews with baking pros.
Hey, it's Liz from the Sugar Geek Show. Thanks for having me, Gemma.
We've even got the Bold Baking Hotline to answer all of your baking queries and questions.
Is a Dutch oven really necessary for baking bread, and what difference does it make?
Yes, I think we probably would agree on that, do we, Oni?
Yeah, good. So join us every Sunday for your new weekly baking ritual. It's everything you need to know.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
Today's program is brought to you by Korin, a supplier of Japanese chef knives and restaurant supplies. For more information, visit korin.com. Hello, welcome to Japan Eats. I'm your host, Akiko Tema, a food writer and the director of the New York Japanese Culinary Academy, which promotes deeper understanding of Japanese cuisine in America. We are broadcasting live from Brooklyn, New York. This show is all about Japanese food and food culture. We see sushi at every day in the supermarket, but what is beyond sushi? We hear dashi ramen izakaya, but what exactly are they? Japanese food is still a mystery for many people, and I try to demystify in this program with my good guests. My guest today is Makoto Okuwa, who is a chef partner of multiple highly popular Japanese restaurants in the US and the other major cities in the world, including Makoto at the Harbor in Miami, Love Makoto in Washington D.C., and Makoto Leo in Colorado. And Makoto's success did not come easily. He started cooking at the age of 15 in Japan and training under master chefs for a decade, and moved to Washington D.C. in 2001. Under Iron Chef Masaharu Morimoto, his new life in America was another hardworking process of learning a foreign language and culture, how to read American diners' mind, not to mention honing his culinary skills. So today we'll discuss how Makoto got into cooking at such a young age, why he decided to challenge himself in America, what he learned from his mentor, master chefs, and the reasons behind his success on the global stage, and much, much more. But before we start, Japan Eats is available on the Heritage Radio Network website, as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify as a podcast. So please go to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, whichever you listen to, and subscribe to Japan Eats. And please write a review. We truly appreciate your feedback. Now, let's start a conversation with Makoto Okuwa. Hello, Makoto. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Akiko-san. Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing today?
Very good. So I'm very excited because I've known you for a long time, and you are really...
It's almost like 20 years.
Maybe. Yeah. So, yeah, very exciting to see how you succeed. And right. So, and by the way, Bobby Cook at Corral, the head chef.
Yes.
He was your protege, and he really admired you so much in episode 328 when he came to the show. Yeah.
Oh, that's very nice of him saying that. Right. That's cool.
But that really shows who you are. So, yeah, we'll discuss everything about how you work with other people and how caring you are and all those things. So, first of all, where are you from and what did you eat when you grew up?
I'm from Japan, city called Nagoya. It's a small city between Tokyo and Nagoya. And I was eating, since my mom is a hamamatsu, so most of traditional food was, made Kanto style, which means a lot more stronger flavor than Kansai at home. And in my house, I often serve, curry, mapo tofu, like typical Japanese meal at home, beef stews, hayashi gravy. It's always something with the rice. With it, right? Because rice is our culture, and rice is something that growing up eating it, right? So when we go out, Nagoya City is where both influences from Tokyo and Osaka, as you know, and some of us, culture like Kyushu and things like that. So in a way, food culture is kind of a culturally melting pot. Ramen is often tonkotsu bases and from Kyushu. And I mean, not to mention chicken wings are very famous in Nagoya. And special flat udon called kishimen. Nagoya is also, it's famous as red miso. Miso soup is usually a lot more intense flavor and so on. And I think it's, one of the udon, I think it's the most famous udon. It's called miso nikomi. It's one of my favorite dish. Also, it's from Japan. I mean, Nagoya. I think that's something very unique.
Right, it's interesting, right? Because Nagoya is between Tokyo and Osaka or Kyoto when you use the Shinkansen, the bullet train. But Nagoya really is packed with very unique mindset, lifestyle, and it's, of course, all those interesting things are reflected in food, like you just briefly described. So, yeah, I think you're born into the right place.
Yeah, it's a lot of inventors there because nobody stops Nagoya, right? You go to Tokyo or Osaka, right? If you don't offer something unique and special, who's gonna stop at Nagoya, right?
Yeah, I think it's a shame. It is a shame because we just don't think about too much. But Nagoya's time is
It's the
coming.
biggest, yeah, it is the first biggest city in Japan.
Right, and actually, the three top major shoguns are from Nagoya area, right? They
Exactly.
really became
Exactly.
stronger.
Thank you. There you go.
Right. So, but by the way, you are surrounded by those amazing food culture. But how did you get into cooking personally?
Well, I think that's not the only one story, but well, I think it's a lot to do with who admire me to be a sushi chef. I think at the early age of myself, I used to be nearby my house, the small sushi joint called Makoto Sushi, and it was actually right in front of my bus station that I'm taking every morning to go to elementary school. Um, Often, we went to see them with my mom, and they're very nice, become very good family friends. And obviously, I was watching him how to make sushi, and he was so like not like a typical Japanese. He was so muscular. He was so cool, type of man. He was like, making sushi very fast. I was very impressed about him, and I think I was remember something in my deep inside, and at the time that I have to you know, choose to learn skill instead of learn education. I, I guess I took my journey as a sushi chef because of that. But besides that, I have a lot, good, mother who cooks a great meal, and grandmother was who, used to be teaching, small city cooking class and stuff like that. So, grandmother made me so many dishes that I can remember, and I think growing up eating good food was also the biggest reason why I became, start cooking myself.
Well, sounds like a destiny or part of your DNA to be involved in cooking process. But you started cooking you started cooking at 15 as a sushi apprentice, right? And worked for Master Chef for a decade after that. So, and what was your training like? What was the biggest challenge and joy for you as a young apprentice under two sushi masters in that 10 years?
That's a good question. As you know, sushi chef is one of most people don't want to started with to begin with, right? A lot to do with unjustified pay, long hour, hard, all kind of reasonable things that people can imagine. But I think yeah, it's just tough to go through those situations if you don't have a dream. But we do have dream. We always wanted to have one day, having your own restaurant. That's the goal, and that's the that creates the passion what we do and things like that.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? The learning sushi skill is almost like earn like a treasure, pay the price before you earn the treasure. Almost like no one in Japan share the valuable lesson for free, right? So you work harder than others to get those skills to learn from master, because we want it to be better than this guy so that I can learn something more than the other appearances and stuff like that. So it was a really difficult, but durable, and I was enjoying every day going there, discovering a new technique, a new skill, you know, so on.
Sounds like you are studying martial arts and you earned the black belt and that kind of mindset, right? It's more like,
Yeah,
regardless of financially you're rewarded or not, it's more about
yeah,
how you improve yourself and
yeah,
refine. Right?
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's joy. If I say joy, like I can sneak peek best part of a fish, myself before serving to the guests and things like that. That's a simple joy that I was really enjoying. That, hey, this is super fresh, and I want to taste it and stuff like that. That was a super cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a long time though, 10 years. And I'm sure you learned something special that can be still applied to what you do now, this day. So what did you learn from your decade-long work experience in Japan?
Mm, I think I went through three different restaurants from age 15 to 26. During that time, I learned about the fundamental mental physical skill that usually people go through, by went to high school or college. But my case, I don't have that, right? So I think it's the earlier age of 15 to I think it's 20 was the developing fundamental, you know, physical and mental skill to be able to become business owner or the chef who just be super responsible for what they do. And like after that, obviously learning how to break fish, how to choose the thing, all more about the cooking. And you do that and more after, just like a American system, same thing, right? You do things like that, and finally you start learning management skill, how to do the business. That was the one I was really happy that I chose right restaurant to begin with. I spent 11 years in Japan for those three, restaurants. I was
Mm,
I was really happy about it. It was tough,
right.
but
Right, but it sounds like you learned as much as within the 10, 11 years. That could have been 20 years of practical, all-round skills.
yeah, I learned something very important lesson. It's not about how many years. It's about where you learn, what you learn. How do you intensify yourself to learning from that, you know, place? It's just you can't just be there and spending time. It's not nothing. It's going to happen. But I think important part is how do you face it and earn it.
Like for example.
For example, so I spent 7 years before those third restaurant, and when I opened the third restaurant, I mean, when I open means when I join the third restaurant, they're doing more than what I was learning in 7 years at the other restaurants. Does that make sense? Well, it's not everything. The other restaurant gave me a lot more things that they didn't do for those 3 years left that I had it. But the third restaurant was a lot more advanced restaurant.
Mm,
And I was
Right.
very, very lucky that I was there for it, and I was
Mm.
be part of it. I was very happy about it.
Mm. Right. Sounds like your first 7 years, that was a certain kind of like, um, the basic training, and on top of it, you becomes next level. And then to conclude, you are able to feel and thrive on top of your 7 year experience. So,
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. Yeah, yeah.
right. Right. So I'm sure it's really reflected in what you do and why you're successful. So we'll take a quick break here. And when we come back, we'll dive into Makoto's endeavors on the world stage right now. So please stay with us. Today's program is brought to you by Korin, a supplier of Japanese chef knives and restaurant supplies. Korin is proud of their Japanese culture and traditions, but they want you to know that their products are not just for Japanese restaurants. Their knives and tableware bring out the best qualities of food from every culture and fit into every restaurant, from French to Pan Asian to American, and that is why they are located in New York City, where people from every country in the world come to eat. Korin's Tribeca showroom is home to the most extensive collection of Japanese chef knives in the world, including Japan. Stop by to view their exquisitely designed tableware and the Welsh natural sharpening stones. They have a whole range of knife services, from repair and rust removal to reshaping and realigning. Korin is dedicated to this ideal, bringing the highest quality Japanese design to your table so you can experience the unparalleled quality of Japanese craftsmanship in your home or restaurant. For more information, visit korin.com. Welcome back. You're listening to Japan Eats on the Heritage Radio Network, HRN. I'm your host, Toki Katayama. My guest today is Makoto Okuwa, who is the chef partner of multiple highly popular Japanese restaurants in the US and beyond, including Makoto's at Pearl Harbor in Miami, Love Makoto in Washington, D.C., and Makoto Dale in Colorado, and much, much more. So after you spent a decade of training in Japan under master chefs, you moved to the Washington, D.C. So why did you do that?
Why I started from DC? It was just to be DC. I didn't choose. I was introduced to Sushi Taro DC through the Japanese Sushi Society. At the time, DC Sushi Taro chef owner was the president of American Sushi Society and organized all the event and relationship with the Japanese Sushi Society, which is known as Sushi Kumiai. So then I I basically asked my chef at the time. I wanted to move to US, and how can I get legally able to work in US? And I went through so many steps and meet so many people who gave me right advices, and I was able to meet Sushi Taro people, and they decided to give me a green card. So I was waiting 2.5 years in Japan, and those 3 years was the like I told you, I mentioned earlier. It was very important lesson, and I was so glad that I went to that restaurant as well for waiting period for my green card.
Right. So, but you wanted to go to work in the States, right?
Yes, I wanted to go to States. I had options, but I decided to go to States because of the reason I wanted to be. It was just so hard to give it. How to dispose of something that I really put in my life into since the time my early ages, and I was actually before start thinking about the moving to US. I was almost like burned out my life. I couldn't take anymore because the environment, and also I was actually decided to go to school when I was 20, and I was participating in those school. I don't know how do you call those schools, but you do study at home, and weekend you go to school and study at a school. And my restaurant that I work for those time period, they are off Sunday, every Sunday, and twice a month on Wednesday, which all those days are fish market, closed for the fish market. They can't get the fresh fish, they close. You know how strict about thinking like that? This restaurant was so popular, and I have 13 other sushi appearances. So the chef told me, "Hey, I like you how you think about it, and I think his study is very important." He said that, but I'm gonna let you do it, but I'm not gonna give you um, any basically he's gonna look at you with the same way with other people. So you're not gonna get extra break or anything like that. So just to think about, myself, like, e- I mean, it is hard itself, longer unjustified. Hey, there's so many things that's hard for you to going through. On top of what I was doing high school, curriculum for those 4 years, I was burned out. I want to go somewhere. I want to rest somewhere, But I had an opportunity to continue pursue this journey using my skill set and someone who helped me to, give me a green card. So I pursued the direction.
Right. And I think you need some breakthrough and get out of everything because you're so fatigued and you needed some new perspective, which turned out to be the luckiest thing happened to you. So I'm glad you decided to go to school and
Thank you.
your master was not so kind to you about your time allocation. Right. So, and then you moved to the DC and you worked for Chef Masaharu Morimoto, who is known as an Iron Chef for many years. And he's amazing. And he himself is just such a unique figure and survived and succeeded in the American market. So what was how did you work with Masaharu Morimoto and what did you learn from him? Yeah, so like, how did you get to know him and what's the connection with him and what did you learn from him?
So I met Chef Morimoto-san in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. A friend of mine who used to be in Washington, D.C., and he moved to Cape Cod, Massachusetts for also Japanese chef Hide Yamamoto, very well-known chef in U.S. back in the day. He moved to Japan eventually, and he has restaurants, Hide Yamamoto in Singapore and all kind of places. But so then my friend who was a sous chef at the hotel, and they are doing an event. They're inviting Morimoto-san for celebration of the event, whatever that purpose. Why don't you come to help him his dish? And I was living in DC, and I was like, but I wanted to meet him so bad. I I was just to watch his I think it was like Food Network show, Morimoto Roll, something like that. I was a sensation about it. And I've been obviously watching, I mean, not all the time, but I was working. But I knew that there is an Iron Chef going on in Japan back in the day. But like I was like literally working. So I really didn't have too much time to watch it so on. But I knew who he is, and I was watching how he, like a documentary, how he opened restaurant in Philadelphia, start to finish. And I was sensational about again, and I wanted to meet him. So I drove from DC to Cape Cod to meet him. And, I was obviously just a cook and who's nobody. I just slicing scallion at the time. He saw how I slicing the scallion. He immediately reached me out, like, reach out to me. Hey, where are you from? All kind of long conversation. And I was like really having a good time with him and finished the dinner and all kind of things. And he asked me, hey, why don't you join our team in Philadelphia? But I say, chef, thank you, but I have to work certain time in DC for giving back, appreciation to the owner who gave me green card and so on. And he understood it. And we left it. We just created a connection. And I left Massachusetts, and I think it's 2 months, maybe even less than 2 months. He called me again. I want you to come to Philadelphia, and I'm going to talk to your owner to give us permission to, for you to move. So he came to DC, and he negotiated with the owner, who is also, Sushi Taro, who was running Sushi Taro. And we got the permission, and I started working for Morimoto-san since then.
Wow. It's like a Cinderella story, and you deserved it totally after the 11 years in Japan. So, wow,
Yeah,
congratulations.
that's how I met. And I was working for him in his sushi bar. At the time, there's so much, since 1 year, less than 1 year since Morimoto-san was opened the new, very new first location for him. So there's a lot people who he trusts, who's very talented people working at the time, together. That was the most memorable and most to gain, so many skill for me by just be there. DNA there was so intense. Like so many talent people were there. And, but I just, they had the opportunity for me to step into that particular situations. In Japan, I learned a lot of things like omakase counter and things like that. So you always look master chef's next steps, right? You have to understand how he moves, how he do things next, what he's gonna need next, what he's gonna put where, and what plate he's gonna use. So those are things that I learned naturally over those 11 years in Japan. So when I started working for him, and I was like literally next to him, and he's step into the kitchen, and once he starts cooking, I start to remember things that he does. And one day I started putting everything in front of him, what he needs. I think that's the time when he started really giving me opportunity to be together on the show, as Who Network, Iron Chef, and things like that, with having all those other people who's also very talented.
Interesting. That is a very interesting mindset, right? Because Japanese kind of strong, strict training, that means that you read someone's mind, and that probably goes into reading your customer's mind to be able to make successful dining experience. So it's not just by cooking side, but also the whole restaurant operation side. You read someone's mind.
Yeah, just like a nurse. They do all the assist to the doctor, right? They don't need to ask. They don't even need to say a word. I think that was the principle.
Right. That is really true. Nurses are the stars, really, at the hospital. Right.
Your question was, what did I learn from chef? I think he taught me a lot. I think he's the guy who taught me how to be a chef in this country and how to deal with this as a Japanese chef. There is always pros and cons, but he's the one who showed me a lot of it. And also he showed me a lot of things that not to do things that he just showed me by the example, screaming in the kitchen, punching the manager's face, and so forth. He's a very so purist. I would have to describe Morimoto-san as a purist, very honest, warm, and he's a very purist, sensitive, creative, big heart. I'm not trying to kiss his ass or anything like that. It just genuinely comes to my feeling if I think about him.
Right. Yeah, I agree, because I have many occasions to speak to him, and he acts funny on TV on the screen, but he's super serious and he's very strictly thinking, training himself, and that's why his expectation to others is very high. But he keeps what he says, and he's very passionate about what he does. So it's like I think it's the motto. He was trained a lot in America, but his mindset is almost like, like the martial arts, serious, focused individual. Right. Okay. So, and after that interesting training, very intense and valuable training under Chef Morimoto, you opened your first restaurant in 2007. And now, 17 years later, you have multiple restaurants in major cities all over the world. And how many restaurants do you have and where do you have? Like, I really try to figure out, but I couldn't.
know, somewhere around 10.
Wow.
A lot with South America and so forth. Because I think a lot to do with I opened restaurant in Miami. Has a lot of people coming from South America and Brazil, Canada, and a lot part of Europe. So it was, you know, naturally came from South America opportunity, and I was just hungry enough to do everything. And I think everything that you do for a reason, and also every time when you do it, you become more stronger, wiser. Learn from a lot of mistakes that you make, and I like that.
Right. So, what do you call your style of cooking? That's like through line of all the restaurants because through line is Japanese, but you have certain style of cooking, right? That you want to maintain. So, what is that essence of your cooking?
Well, well, that's a good question, but I think I called it modern Japanese cuisine. I like to showcase unique Japanese flavor that distinguish from other cuisine like shiso, kinome, yuzu, sudachi, hanaho. Those essence of Japanese cuisine is very important, and not to mention with the top high quality, and freshness.
Right. And then depending on the location, you have local ingredients and you express to make the most of the ingredients flavor, which is essential in Japanese cuisine, right?
Correct. And it's
Right.
not that easy. I mean, look at us.
Sure.
Look at us in the U.S. last 10 years. How much we gotten better from, like, I came here 2001. How much gotten better logistics, quality of the fish, things that we can get, and stuff like that. It just outrageous. So much we want, you know, we've come a long way to get here. And,
Right.
I kind of do the same way everywhere. So I'm challenging every day.
Well, just to let listeners know that Makoto is calling from Brazil. So now it really shows that it must be hard to cook
Yeah.
in Japanese food in Brazil, like compared to here or in Japan. Or do you have an example? Serving food in Brazil. What's the challenge and what's the advantage?
I think the challenge is to create. So very similar to Japan, Brazil has a lot of smaller Japanese restaurants everywhere, like everywhere. As you know, São Paulo is the third biggest, I think, second largest Japanese population outside of Tokyo, outside of Japan. After LA, São Paulo, I think it's the second one, right? And Japanese restaurants are all over the places, and everybody goes to the fish market and buying fish. There is no such a company who bring in all those quality fish to you. We kind of need to do everything by ourselves. I think that's one thing that's very difficult. Besides that, in ingredients that I use, we pretty much have to make everything in here, like everything. So many seasoning and things like that. We make everything here ourselves. Instead of we go like Americans do the same thing but nowadays we can get a lot of things easily, but before, not like that. But here is basically doing the same thing. So, but I did that before, so I kind of know how to do these things. How to make a flavor where I like without having those existing product from the shop or vendor.
Right. So, what kind of the ingredients do you make, for example, in Brazil?
Shiokoji, even miso sometimes, tofu, the sauce, kombu essence sauce and yuzu kosho, all kind of things that we
Oh
use.
boy, that's a lot of work.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is. And like
Right.
sushi vinegar, we want to use akazu, obviously. Akazu is a lot more intensive flavor that we like, but we don't. So we actually reducing balsamic vinaigrette to mix with the light vinegar. Just all kind of things I have to do to create the
Wow.
similar flavor profile that I like. It's just not one way or the other.
Sounds like it's fun though.
Well, yeah. Well, if you
Maybe
found,
not.
found like found a solution, it's fun. But sometimes very struggle there and spend a lot more time than what I'm supposed to spend. But yeah.
Right. Well, I think it's going to be a cumulative skills and knowledge for whoever cooks Japanese food in Brazil or other places. So it's like you are creating an asset as well through your struggles and time efforts. So I really think it's very cool that you're doing everything by hand. So maybe you can give us some examples of dishes that you represent your style, regardless of which restaurant of where it's located.
I don't know. This is representing me, but it's something unique. I don't think a lot of people or sometimes not even heard of like we basically started go frosty Kobe fried rice. So as you sounds like a frosty, so the Kobe beef is actually partially frozen and served on top of this super hot, flavorful fried rice. And we want people to enjoy, texture, temperature when you put it in the mouth, hot and cold, and those kind of unique, trying to create a unique experience for the guest. With a lot of those things, like where, I started it 10, 12 years ago when we opened rest of Miami, we started doing oyster, fire and ice oyster. Basically, we created a granite out of yamamomo on top of, Kumamoto oyster and things like that. We play with the temperatures a lot.
Right. So sounds like new, modern, creative, but makes sense, right? Expressing Japanese essential flavors in different format in a very integrated way. So, yeah, that's cool. So, what do you think is the reason that you are able to stay so successful with those multiple restaurants?
Oh, well, I don't know. I would call myself successful, but what I have today is because I was lucky enough to meet so many great mentors and friends who motivate me and give me an encouragement. And most importantly, they trusted me and they gave me opportunities. Not to mention, I failed a lot, but I never give up. I was keep trying, pushing myself forward. I think that's it.
Right. Well, somebody said if you don't stop, you never fail. So I think that's really
Yeah,
true. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's I think also you have good mentors, and you have been a good mentor as well yourself, right? Like Robbie Cook said. So what do you think about that?
Well, yeah. Well, I have to mention something here because it's such a historical. So I learned chef called Haruyoshi Matsuda. He was the chef of Tokyo Aoyama Ozushi. He learned from under Omai Kinjiro. In sushi history, Omae Kinjiro, which Kinjiro Omae was one of those guys who started, Edomae Sushi and all this, his picture of the nigiri sushi is in Japanese old sushi textbook. So the Omae Kinjiro-san, he actually did involve a lot to do with Washington D.C. He's the one who bring sushi culture to D.C. and started the Sakura Matsuri and so on. And my chef Matsuda-san was his first appearances of Omae Kinjiro-san.
Wow.
And he eventually opened Tokyo Oyama Ozushi in Mie Prefecture. That's where I started learning. But there is a connection. My mentor was actually letting sushi society involving American culture and trying to introduce Japanese culture to the world. And I want to be involved with things like that. And I want to continue pursue introducing what Japanese offer, what beautiful part of Japan, or what we proud of, what we do. So.
Right. So that says you have the mindset to succeed legacy, and you have to pass it on to the next generation, right? So when you run a restaurant, I'm sure you have to hire a reliable chef like Mr. Morimoto hired you. So how do you work with your staff people, like chefs or whoever in your restaurant? Like, you have to choose good partners at your each restaurant. And
Right.
What's your approach? Because, I would assume they're not in Japan, so they are non-Japanese people. They don't have any strict sushi training like you did for 11 years in Japan. So
Right.
how do you teach kind of, mindset? And also, there's so many things.
Yeah, with the partner, I think I started doing a lot more nowadays. Let it people do what they are the best at it. So let me focus cooking. Let it run the business who's dedicated your life to, focusing a business or focusing accounting, focusing in HR, you name it. Every element of the business position is essential, right? So you can learn everything, understanding everything, but to do professionally takes village and takes time. And we have only one life and short time period. Why don't you let people do the things that they do better than you? And once I started thinking about it, it made me my life a lot easier, a lot easier. And with the team, same thing. Like giving them more opportunity that also I wanted to have that opportunity when I was younger parents. So trying to listen what they say and trying to, teach them what they need, give them what tool they need and things like that. Trust and try not to micromanage, show them by the example. Those things, like those fundamental things that I do follow and do care.
Right. I think that was a big part of your answer why you're successful because
Oh,
you're paying
thank you.
attention. And I've known you for a long time, and you're really, chill, caring human being. I know that.
Thank
So,
you. That's,
yeah.
that's,
But on the
appreciate
other hand, I'm just being honest. So what is the biggest challenge in running multiple restaurants?
Quality control. Besides quality control, biggest challenge multiple restaurant, consistency. Create a consistency. Working with so many different culture, people, ingredients from each country. Like we mentioned earlier, that makes really difficult. Um, And for my case, just a lot of people who, people do different things. One person has too many lessons, many lessons in the same city. In my case is I'm even crossing the country. So it's just a lot of travel times. It's a lot of things that
Right. So you are one person. So, right. But I think you sounds like you're acquiring how to manage, like, surf through those challenges, and I
Yeah,
see you are enjoying that too, right?
I I think it's yeah. Also, I'm starting building the team. I think that's allow us to do more things are efficient, more
Mm.
things not easier, but more things are doable. Um, yeah, I think that's the important part of it.
Mm, right. And, it's extension of this question, but, you could have restaurants in Japan, right? Because
Hmm.
running restaurant abroad as a sushi chef in Japan, the supply of seafood is much easier. Everything's so
Hmm.
organized, and your
Yeah.
experience and skills, you can run restaurants. But you want to stay in the U.S. and cooking in the
Uh-huh.
U.S. So
Yeah.
why is that?
Why? It's
Mm.
very easy answer. Um, I don't know. I try not to offend anybody, but I think Akiko-san, you understand this. In Japan, a lot of cases when I see it, people do, and I was the same way treated it. When people see someone trying to be better than you or trying to do more than you, they push you down or make some
Mm.
limit. You know, oh, because it's not for your time or whatever that is. It's so unreasonable. But
Mm.
America, when people see someone trying to grow and someone trying to do the right thing or good things, they help. They help who you are. And
Yeah.
the culture, I could not
Yeah.
adapt it.
That
That's why
is
I was
true.
like really, you know, um, I was I was my own way since the time of 12, 13. I was own way. I
Mhm.
one of those kid, you know, but I think I myself, my personality doesn't allow, me to be the certain spot for lifetime long. And I did it
Mm.
because I wanted to have something. I wanted to um, earn my skill set. I want to learn from these people. So I did it. But once I have that, I want to be somewhere who um, give me better opportunity or could be give me more respect what I do or yeah. Um,
Mm. Right. And instead of push down, you get almost inspired because everybody tried to support you and then give you new ideas. And sometimes people try to steal idea and even moving it forward. So it's
exactly.
kind of like interesting creative energy. That's, I think, it's very American thing.
Exactly.
Right.
I like that. I like that part of. There's so many pro and cons again, but I like that part of America so much.
Mm, I totally understand. Right. So, well, one thing, this is my question about Japanese restaurant in the US in the
Mhm.
future. So, I mean, I'm so pleased to see there's so many great Japanese restaurants and many restaurants coming in from Japan. And then,
Mhm.
it's very fancy omakase style, super expensive restaurants and sushi bars.
Mhm.
It's great because, that's the art form and the country has really accumulated and then
Mhm.
showcasing to the world. However,
Mhm.
unless you have a big budget, it's not
Mhm.
available, and I don't think
Mhm.
it's not. There's a big future for that. So, what do you think about Japanese restaurants in the U.S.
Mhm.
abroad to be able to be appreciated equally by everybody, like in Japan? What do you think is
Mhm.
going to happen, and what should you do? Should you do as a chef?
That was a very complex question. I think Japanese people are very good at sustaining the traditional style and what has been made for centuries. And it's easier to make an amazing dish using the highest quality of fish or meat. It tastes better, but it costs you a lot. So, which is why those sushi omakase places are so expensive. It makes sense. But to
Mm,
thrive, I think Japanese food needs to be more creative to make the food more approachable. In order to do that, it will require us to find a balance and technique to fill the gaps.
Right. I think someone like you have knowledge of this whole market and the food supply system. I think you can do something to keep Japanese food popular. So,
I hate to say myself, but I'm also a good listener too. I listen a lot from partner um, or local guests, what guests to say this and yes, trying to cater or deliver what people wants. You that could sometime out. It might go outside the box, but trying to make dishes that not only few people happy. I'm always thinking to make the dish that could make 1,000 people happy instead. So
right.
that's my always go to mindset.
Right. I think it's very important. And then especially, there are so many cool, very successful restaurants from Japan coming into the US, it's more visible. But because of your knowledge and experience, both in Japan and America, I think someone like you really can inspire the whole Japanese restaurant industry. And because I understand you're a great listener, and I knew that for a long time. And that's why, you can manage running multiple restaurants and building a great team. And I think it's important that you are someone like you bridging Japanese restaurant industry who's supplying food, but you are serving to the American consumers, or not only America, global consumers. So you are
Thank
the
you.
bridge. Yeah. So,
Thank you.
right. So what are your plans and dreams?
Oh wow, my plans. Oh, so many plans I have. Um, well, at the moment, I think I plan to continue to focus on our existing brands and concept worldwide. Um, and like my dream is to start fish and vegetable farm to produce sustainable, safe Japanese fish and vegetable, and I can buy from it. Supply chain. I want to create that supply chain so that I can have more reasonable price and better quality across the country. I think that's the way I look at it. Besides, my soon, like very close future dream is I actually opening Japanese sushi school in Cincinnati. Um, knowing how we treated people who works with us in US, there's no time to dedicate individual to teach them fundamental sushi work so much. Maybe they do place where very expensive, very small places might be able to have that time, but most of the case, 80% of majority of the case, they don't have that time. And I wanted to provide that. I wanted to have that knowledge to, I want to provide that places using my knowledge and experience and, people who I know could might help to do this dream. So that's what I'm doing.
Right. Oh, wow. So when you open the school, come back and talk about it, because I think it's going to be a very exciting thing for many of our
Yeah, I
listeners.
would
And
love
so,
to. I would
right.
love to. Sometime next year. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I can't wait. And I think, that kind of school creates great chefs pool. And that leads to a healthy growth of Japanese different industry, sushi or in Japanese cuisine in general. So that's a very great energy source for the future in Japanese
Thank
industry.
you.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So where can we find your updates online and on social media?
Um. Oh my God, Akiko-san, I'm terrible at it. I don't. First of all, I do not like too much being on the social media or any places where well, again not too much, but I think you can find me at Chef Makoto on Instagram, and I think in each single restaurant has their own website, so you can check and see what we do current
Right. So
basis.
you Google Makoto Okua's restaurant. You can have a bunch of it. I think a location.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So good luck with whatever you do. You have a lot to do. So and
Thank you.
right. Thank you so much. And really, again, I'm very excited how much you've done. And since we've known each other, you are always doing something exciting. And also you are such an inspiring, very chill individual.
Thank you.
So thank you for being you.
I might be coming back to New York sometime soon.
Oh, all right. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Right.
That's one of my dream and my goal to open restaurant in New York City.
I think New York City is waiting for you.
I'll be there.
Great. All right. So thank you so much for joining us today, Makoto. And you traveled all the way to Brazil and you must be tired. So take care and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Listeners, if you have any questions or comments about the show or suggestions for show topics or guests, please contact us at japaneats@heritageradionetwork.org or kikotema.com. Japan Eats is a weekly program and is always available at heritageradionetwork.org as well as on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify as a podcast. Engineer is Liam Warner, and thanks for listening. I will see you next week.
Japan Eats is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.